What is going on, Neon Nation? Haven't had a news update in a while here with all the analysis videos I've been working on, but it's finally that time of the week where we dive into the latest and greatest in the world of Cyberpunk 2077. In today's video, we'll be rounding up the new PlayStation gameplay, detailing a new Q&A from CDPR regarding the launch of Cyberpunk and what to expect after, new details on a preload date and updated file size, some more preview impressions, a new interview with Adam Badowski, a particular quest that has gotten a lot of traction internally at CD Projekt Red, some extended gameplay from Famitsu, sexual content filters, and why IGN is saying this game is, quote, the most adult video game they've ever seen. First up, we have some new PS4 and PS5 gameplay that dropped a few days ago. This is the PS4 version being played on the PS4 Pro, and with backwards compatibility on the PS5. Again, this looks fantastic, and to my boomer eyes, looks on par with the Xbox versions. This was new gameplay as well, as we open up with some shots of the character creator and some more unique combinations before we get some more standard driving sequences throughout the city on par with their Xbox showcase. Some segments in the Nomad life path as you approach the border of North and South California were also shown, as well as some first-person driving action and some light rain at night, before we see the Max Tac hop out of an NCPD AV to nullify a threat, and an updated scavengers chase scene. Looking a little bit deeper into some of these scenes, let's first take a look at the driving segment. First off, although I'm sure there's not a lot of long straight roads to showcase the horizontal depth of Night City, as most roads are likely tightly weaved, we do have one that showcases this here. Render distance seems to be generous enough, and we have a new quest off to the side, named I Fought the Law, where you have to meet up with Elizabeth Perales, who is likely the mayoral candidate's wife. We see an interaction with both in the official gameplay trailer here. The map and logo of the new USA is shown off in the border scene, and there's also sequences here where Spanish is highlighted, meaning you have not yet acquired your language translator chip, which when attached to your Kiroshi optics will help you translate NPCs who speak foreign languages to English. The Max Tac are again the top of the food chain when it comes to the NCPD, and they also have some rocket propulsion boots in their arsenal. We also get confirmation here that the gangsters in the digital masks are in fact scavengers and not the bozos. Now if you're into full analysis videos, check out the 27-minute one I released a couple days ago. But my takeaways from this showcase is that the game is looking great for prior gen consoles, at least the most recent models in the One X and the PS4 Pro. We will get to statements about what CDPR thinks about the base models a little bit later. Up next, we have a couple updates coming from the Cyberpunk 2077 Twitter page. First up, we have a very nice feature here for content creators, with the ability to disable copyrighted music with the simple toggle options in the menu. If you are streaming or creating content, you can rest easy knowing that potential strikes and DMCA takedowns can be completely avoided. Next up, we have the ability for console players to cross-save between generations. For example, if you started to play the game on your PS4 or PS4 Pro, and you were around 30 hours into the game before getting a PS5, you can now port that save file over to your next-gen console and pick up where you left off. I know a lot of people aren't early adopters of new next-gen consoles and like to take their time with open-world RPGs, so again, this is going to make your life a hell of a lot easier if you're going to be gaming on a console. Of course, this option extends to both platforms in the PlayStation and Xbox. Finally, if you have pre-ordered the game on Steam, you will receive this exclusive comic called 2 AM She Calls. A story about the hostile streets of Night City is seen by Frank, an ex-NCPD officer working the night shift as a combat cab driver. In addition, you will also get a set of exclusive goodies including avatars, posters, and a wallpaper. Developers have also been pretty active on Twitter in regards to some details on Cyberpunk. First up, we have lead QA tester Luca Spabio responding to a question if there is an option to turn off nudity, to which that he responds that there will be. Again, this is big not only for content creators, but also those who play in more public areas of your home, an eyeshot of impressionable children or even parents. Next, we have Paulo Capallo tweeting out, quote, I just completed a certain quest in Cyberpunk 2077, and while I don't usually get emotional playing games, I had to pause and take a breather after this one. Our quest designers and writers created an insanely good experience. Moving on, we have a couple new screenshots here in 4K featuring Adam Smasher and Mox leader Evelyn Parker, as well as a female V version of a 2018 E3 trailer screenshot that featured male V for a very long time. We also have an extended official gameplay trailer from Famitsu. It showcases a couple more seconds of footage of many of the scenes from the gameplay trailer, and it's nice to see some more uninterrupted segments of gameplay, even if it is just for a few seconds. On screen here, I'll have the more standout extended clips from the trailer. Now when it comes to downloading the game, Cyberpunk 2077's Preload is apparently on the 8th of December, according to this account on Twitter, and will be a full download size of 72 GB, including the Day Zero patch. We have around 12 days left before the game comes out, and it's starting to feel a lot more real with updates like this. Moving on, we have a Q&A with CDPR after their Q3 2020 earnings report investors call, so let's get into some of the standout answers when it comes to Cyberpunk and CDPR's future. When it comes to Cyberpunk Online, CDPR will be sharing more of this in Q1 of 2021, and will also be sharing more aspects around future releases. Later on, they add that Cyberpunk's multiplayer will again be a separate dedicated production, and a big one at that. It's also not entirely standalone, because it's very much related to the concept of the single-player Cyberpunk. In a question about the final build and bugs, Adam Kaczynski mentions that the final build will be more bug-free than the previews, which did suffer from a fair amount of them. Of course, the game won't be bug-free, but they believe in launching with as few as possible. Regarding when the embargo will lift for reviews, they're not revealing the exact date, but do note that they will let gamers read about the game before they buy. Now, since the base PS4 and Xbox One have yet to be shown, a question was asked about their performance, to which the answer is of course it's a little bit lower than the PS4 Pro and the One X, but it is surprisingly good for such a huge world. Keanu Reeves has also played the game according to Kaczynski, and although he has not finished it, he's played it and he loves it. Initially, CDPR were going to announce the plans for their expansion's pre-release of 2077, but this has changed, and they will now focus on that after the launch of the main game. Moving on, we have some preview details coming from IGN's Tom Marks via a Q&A in a new podcast. Jumping into the Q&A, Marks mentions that driving is just okay, although just okay seems to be an improvement from the last preview session, where driving was seen in a more negative light. Some of the earlier cars are of course slower than the later game sports cars. Many were concerned that the world looks empty, but Marks clarifies that he didn't get that sense and it really feels like a populated world. He mentions that there are 4 difficulty options in Cyberpunk, and that he played on normal, which was a step up from easy, and he found it challenging at times. Of course, it depends on the missions that you're doing and the tier of enemies that you're challenging. In a question about how slow the game is in comparison to Red Dead Redemption 2, he mentions that Cyberpunk 2077 is slow in the way that an RPG is, and not as slow as Red Dead 2, which he found a bit tedious and boring. Moving into the Beyond podcast episode 677, Tom Marks mentions that Cyberpunk is surprisingly good at balancing its over-the-topness with more serious themes. When it comes to sex, Marks also mentions that Cyberpunk is obviously not porn, but feels like porn just because there's sex everywhere in the world. It can be a little in your face, but there are moments for genuine human conversations, and also silly moments. He goes on to mention that this is probably, quote, the most adult video game he's ever seen in the truest sense. Finally, we have a new interview with head of studio Adam Badowski, where he goes over a multitude of elements of the Cyberpunk universe, the developmental process of the game, Easter eggs, and more. The interviewer asks Badowski if he sees cyberpunk elements in our current world, to which he responds that in terms of tech, yes, but there is also a social dimension in the past couple of years, with amazing and bizarre societal changes on par with Cyberpunk. We all know by now Cyberpunk 2077 is based on Mike Pondsmith's Cyberpunk IP, and a question is asked if 2077 is a one-to-one transfer of the world. Badowski mentions that they started with the baseline of the retro atmosphere and the individual fighting the system as the basics, and reinterpreted from there. They initially had some pretty outlandish ideas, but worked closely with Pondsmith and arrived at a coherent version of the world, which on one hand references retrofuturism, but is also up to date. Badowski mentions straight remakes are boring, and the role of creators is to make meaningful interpretations of what's been laid out to make it more interesting. A question about if the game has deviated in its goal of being a mature game in the dark future, to which Badowski responds that it has not. The game is quite difficult in terms that it's not solely focused on spectacular events, explosions, and action. It's a game about relationships between people in an oppressive world. When asked if the 27-second rule still applies from The Witcher, which is a design principle where the player has to come across something interesting within 27 seconds of traversing the world, Badowski mentions that this still rings true, but the time between interesting elements is probably lower now because of the density of the environment. A little bit of a spoiler warning here before we get into the next point, but Badowski ends up giving a hint about a potential ending, where V somehow has to say goodbye to the city and that the story is a re-examination of what you want in life from the perspective of V. Is this what you actually want to do, or is this pre-programmed through society and the world? When it comes to favorite characters, Badowski mentions Panem the Nomad. She's not the most complicated character, but is cool and energetic. There's a lot of melancholy sentiment within her story, which parallels with many of the stories that The Witcher told. Easter eggs that are Slavic inspired include of course the Slavic squat, pierogies, and Chopin. When it comes to comic book influences, Eden and Ranxerox describe the level of brutality in a noir world, and were influential in Cyberpunk 2077. His personal favorite comic influence is Tekken Kinkreet, based off of the black and white manga. Cyberpunk apparently draws heavily from the districts here. Finally, when asked what thoughts he would like to leave a player who has finished the game, Badowski responds that he wants you to reflect on the experience and why exactly V's path was important. He mentions that Night City personifies Master Mirror, offering you everything but at a price. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. For more Cyberpunk, join Neon Nation by subscribing to the Neon Arcade.